If I recall correctly, you argued that AGI is impossible because Turing machines or universal Turing machines can't find affordances. I don't know where. It may have been from your book, but it also may have been just from reading a transcript of an interview of yours from a while ago.
Yeah, this was...
Am I correct, or?
Yes, and here is artificial general intelligence. So, apologies, he's wonderful. I don't remember the dumbest thing I said to him, but I'm sure there was some good ones. Anyway, we haven't achieved open-ended evolution in artificial life. We have achieved general artificial intelligence with computers. I'm not going to say anything about large language models. The fundamental reason is open-ended evolution requires the creation of new possibilities that cannot be deduced through old possibilities. Well, Darwinian pre-adaptations do that, and I think the human mind does it. We jerry-rig the current. Jerry-rig to find non-deducible new uses for things. Well, it's the same as Darwinian pre-adaptations. So, a trivial example is, my daughter years ago lost her purse in a little bottle, and I took a broom and I said, I walked the coat hanger over. I used the hook on the wire coat hanger to pull up her purse. We do multi-step jerry-rigging. No step can be deduced. How do we do 20-step jury-rigging? When no step can be deduced, there's no local clue that it's getting better. It's not a search on a landscape. It's definable. We do it all the time. I don't think the universe... I'm sure that the universe leaves out the large language model. Just take your computer. I don't think you can get all this jerry-rigging. I think of how a rope would do it. 20-step jerry-rigging. You have to manipulate the work to stumble upon the fact that, oh, this could be useful. So, human minds do it. Biological evolution is at it all the time, one step at a time. If I find a new use for this, there are Darwinian pre-adaptations. That's how evolution is open-ended, and it's this actual physics things like molecules and bits of a computer. So I don't know about large language models.
Nobody has achieved open-ended evolution in artificial life, and nobody has achieved general artificial life on a computer, but evolving organisms have. They're embodied and embedded in the world. So a cell that constructs itself by constraint closure and is a dynamical system with multiple attractors is constructing itself, and if it's a different attractors, it is doing work on the world, and that is categorizing the world and acting in the world, but there's no representation going on. None. We think representation is necessary. Kononoskenaji's life is representing nothing. It's constructing itself.
Okay, speaking about the limits of formalization, quote, the world is not a theorem, end quote. Explain.
Yeah, great title, huh? Well, what Andre and I did, we showed that I reached, he's just wonderful. He does robotics and he's really terrific. I reached out to him at some point and I said, Andrea, there's something really funny about set theory. And we had gotten to our own sense that you cannot list all the uses of a thing before Mikhail Prokopenko's theorem, okay? So we had gotten to, we can't list all the uses of something. The uses of something are not orderable, and we can't deduce the uses. So therefore, we said we can't list the uses of a screwdriver, and we can't list the uses of an engine block. So Andrea and I were saying, we were looking at the axioms of set theory, and Andrea says, look at the axiom of extensionality. Two sets are identical if and only if they have the same members. But I can't list the uses of a screwdriver, and I can't list the uses of an engine block, so it can't prove that they're identical. That's it. There's no axiom of extensionality given the indefinite. Say it again. Two sets are identical if they have the same members. I cannot list the uses of an engine block. I cannot list the uses of a screwdriver. Therefore, I cannot prove that the uses are identical. There's no axiom of extensionality for uses of things. And also, the axiom of choice turns out to be identical to well-ordering, but since the uses of things are not orderable, there's no well-ordering. So we don't have the axiom of choice. But we can't get numbers, so Russell says the number 2 is a set of all things with members.
Well, that's a set of all things with exactly 2 uses. Well, instead of things with exactly 2 uses, the number of uses of a screwdriver, 2 or 3 or 10. In fact, it's indefinite. I would say indefinite, and I don't know what that is. So we can't get a number from Russell. If we can't get 2, we can't get 3. We can't get 2 plus 3 is equal to 5. So we can't get equations like 2 plus 3 equals x or x plus 2 equals 5. So we can't get rational numbers. We can't get equations. We can't get quadratic equations, so we can't get real numbers. We can get union and intersection of sets. We can't get topology. We can't get equations. It's 0. Instead of it, it would be very useless, so that doesn't make any sense. And when it's next, it's great. We need +1. But our things are unordered, so they don't have a +1. So we can't get numbers. To get 3, we can't get any equations, we can't get a manifold. We keep writing equations that we couldn't integrate them. You can't. It's become a conclusion. We can't use any of the mathematics of set theory to compute or deduce the evolution of the biosphere. That's right, that tells me that there's some other mathematics, and maybe category theory to do it or something. We're just referring to set theory. That's a lot. It means that the world is not a theorem. It means by theorem you can write down some equation, some phase space, and deduce a trajectory in it. You can't. You're not going to be Lagrangian, and there's not going to be a theory I teach you if you want to explain the evolution of the biosphere as part of your theory. And if you do, fine, but the pressure is incredibly complicated, and it's been around for 4 billion years. So now what? There's a lot to swallow. And I said 14 physicists wouldn't read it, including a Nobel laureate economist, a famous philosopher. And they're not evil. I mean, look at this as a mess.
The Economist covers math, physics, philosophy, and AI in a manner that shows how different countries perceive developments and how they impact markets. They recently published a piece on China's new neutrino detector. They cover extending life via mitochondrial transplants, creating an entirely new field of medicine. But it's also not just science. They analyze culture, they analyze finance, economics, business, international affairs across every region. I'm particularly liking their new Insider feature. It was just launched this month. It gives me, a front row access to The Economist's internal editorial debates, where senior editors argue through the news with world leaders and policymakers in twice-weekly long format shows. Basically, an extremely high-quality podcast. Whether it's scientific innovation or shifting global politics, The Economist provides comprehensive coverage beyond headlines. As a TOE listener, you get a special discount. Head over to economist.com/TOE to subscribe. That's economist.com/TOE for your discount.